Alright, I just got some good news today. I get to go back to work next week, so while I've got the time off, I should probably crank out this video series as quickly as I can on my favorite Android apps. And as stated previously, this episode's going to cover your desktop for the most part, your launcher and widgets. Now, the default layout that you'll usually get isn't completely customizable. Depending on your Android device, you may get Quick Start or a different kind of shell. And while it would have an appearance such as this for your icons and your notifications and that sort of thing, I've spent a lot of time looking through different types of launchers or desktop shells, whatever you want to call them. And the best one I've been able to find is Nova Launcher, and that's what I'm using right now. I like it because it is highly customizable. Now, on mine, I only have one desktop that does not scroll at all. Okay, I have mine set up to where all of my icons instead are easily classified into folders that have an icon. Okay, so all of my root programs go in one little spot, and I have all of those launchers right there instead of swiping across the screen and then having a whole bunch of icons appearing there that you gotta sort through and find what you're looking for. At least for me, this is something a little bit more convenient. When I bring my tablet with me, I like to play some games sometimes, and so I have a selection of games that I can play. I have some Play Store stuff here, and we're going to get into that in the next episode. And then, of course, I have another one where I can launch my browser and my file manager. So Nova Launcher, I like this one the best because it has a lot of really cool features in this, and one of my favorite is the fact that you can back up everything. And even if for instance, let's say you decide to wipe your tablet or your phone, okay, and just reinstall everything. If you load the backup, everything that you had on your desktop and your screen appearance, folders, and everything will be restored the way it originally was, even if the widgets or the applications don't appear there anymore. So it'll give you a clue as to what you need to download and reinstall so that you don't forget. You have the ability to change your wallpapers, your widgets, and your settings, and there are a multitude of settings. Now, the Nova Launcher is free. However, if you want the advanced features, you're going to need to ante up a little bit. It doesn't cost that much for the Prime version, which is what I'm running right now, and it's well worth it for the extra features, such as you can have extra gestures, so you can have it open up different applications or do different things just by and you could, so for instance, if I wanted to make a swipe up gesture, I could open that up, and then I could tell it what I want it to do. Maybe I want to use one of the features here. Maybe I want to use one of the applications that I have installed, or maybe I just want to use a shortcut. You could do that with gestures, which I think is a really neat feature of the Nova Launcher. Let's see what else we have here. And there's no way I could cover all of the different things that this does. So experimentation is key. But, you can define your desktop grid layout and how big the icons are. You can define how you want the search bar to appear or not at all. I know on my original launcher, I couldn't get rid of the search bar. I thought it was an inappropriate place to have it. If I want to search, I want to be able to open up my, my web browser and do my searching there. The way I like to organize things on my phone and on my mobile devices, I have everything already organized so I can easily find it. So search is pretty much useless to me. I don't need it. And yeah, I guess it's just my workflow. I have an older way of doing things. I'm used to open up a web browser and searching, rather than using these like the Google Assistant and that sort of thing. I completely uninstalled that. It's not on any of my devices. I don't want it. I don't need it. And who knows who at Google is, recording all this information in the first place, right? Let's see what else we have here. Okay, I've never used the integrations or notifications and that sort of thing, but the backup and import settings that I mentioned before, that's a cool feature. And also setting up your folder icons and that sort of thing is all done here, which is what I have at the top. So Nova Launch is probably the best launcher that I've ever had. There was another one I had a few years back that I was using on my Galaxy S2 that had a 3D desktop. It was called SPH, if I'm not mistaken, SPH, and it was really cool for the time being, but I mean, it was a battery hog, where this one really isn't. And this is a great overall Android desktop to have if you want simplicity and you want full functionality. Okay, let's see what we have next. Here is WeWow. I love this application. WeWow provides my weather. Okay, and it's saying it's 89 degrees today. Sure doesn't feel like it just yet, but I'm sure it may get a little bit warmer today. Looks like today we're going to have a high of 94. All right, and I really like the layout here of the weather. This is my favorite weather application, and I've looked at a lot of them, believe me, almost all of them. I like the large weather map as well, and so yeah, I really like the layout and everything. You can you have different map options available to you, and there are a lot of different widgets. You can customize this for a number of things. For instance, besides just having the weather now and then 3 days in advance, you could actually have this act as your clock, and it has a ton of widgets. As a matter of fact, let's go ahead into the widget drawer, and you can see some of the different styles that it has to offer. And they have photo, or you can make them transparent. So you can see here they have a bunch of really nice widgets, and they have a few choices for icons as well, which is pretty neat. So I've been using WeWow, and I don't think this has a cost, but they do have an in-app purchase ability where you can make donations to support the developer, and I highly recommend that you do, because this is a really nice application. And compared to a lot of the other weather applications that are freely offered on the Android market, this one doesn't spam you with a lot of advertisements and that sort of thing. So it's very nice, and I really like that. You're going to notice here I have something called a transparent widget. I'm going to show you that here in a moment, because the next widget that I have on my desktop here is called the minimal clock. Now the minimal clock here, it's saying right now that it's 12:43. This allows you to customize it and that sort of thing. It's a little bit different. I've always liked the round kind of clock or analog clock, But this one is kind of futuristic in its own right. The only problem with this is it only has one launcher. You can set it up to where where it'll launch your time or alarm application, or you could set it up to maybe open up your calendar. Wait, I just said you can only do one. Well, this is where the transparent widget, one of my favorite widgets on the Google Play Store, comes in handy. Before I put up the minimal clock, I actually had a stopwatch on here, and the problem is when you clicked the stopwatch, it would open up the configuration utility, and they had all these little buttons on it, and I wanted it to open up different things. I wanted to open up my calendar by clicking a certain area on the clock. I wanted to open up I wanted to open up my time utility and that sort of thing. And the transparent widget makes it handy because on the Nova launcher, you can stack widgets on top of each other. So I'll show that to you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this widget here and I'm going to long press it. And then I need to unlock my home screen. Okay. All right. And then I can bring this front or long press and send to back. Okay. And then there's an invisible widget here, okay? And you can't see what I'm doing with this. It's very hard, but there it is. It's an invisible widget. So this widget, I have it programmed to open up the time, and this is programmed to open up the date. And so now with this selected, I can resize this if I want to. And you can make these any size you want. So for instance, let's say I didn't want to have this like the weather notification. Let's say I wanted to completely disable when you touch it, have it do anything. You could put an invisible widget on top of any widget that you have on your screen and not assign it to open any launchers, and then that would prevent maybe touching the weather icon here from opening anything new, which is really cool. So yeah, so I found the invisible widget to be very handy because there are sometimes I might want to. There was one time I had a battery notification and that sort of thing. And I didn't want it to open up the application. So I could have the battery widget on the screen and then put a transparent icon over the top, and then that would prevent it from opening the application when the icon or the widget is touched. There is a caveat to the transparent widget, though. You really can't see where you're positioning things, so it takes some getting used to. You need to have a little bit of precision movement with this, but it works very well. I like it because now I have a clock which gives me 2 launcher options rather than just one. But I could also add even more if I wanted to. I could shrink the size of this widget and then maybe put another widget over here and then have it open up something else. So the transparent widget is very useful. Okay, let's go into a little bit more here. We've got some time to do that today. I'm going to talk about my favorite browser and my favorite file manager. My favorite browser that I'm using at the present here is a Chromium-based browser called Bromite. And Bromite is excellent because it's based on pure Chromium, but it also has some tracking and blocking I think it has some tracking and ad blocking capabilities and that sort of thing, and it's nice and easy to customize. Now, previously, I was using Kiwi browser for the longest time, and while it is nice, I liked this one better. I was actually able to go into the flags on this and set it up to where every web page that I visit has a dark theme without having to install any plugins. And one thing I've experienced in time is that having many plugins on your web browser can slow things down, especially on an Android device. So I figured I'd go a different route this time and use a browser that doesn't have any plugins at all. Just basically going into the flags, and what I did was I bookmarked the Chrome URLs. I was able to go into flags, and then I was able to go into the experimental section and force dark mode on for web content, and darken websites checkbox in the theme settings with that. So I really like the way that the Bromite is set up, but you can't get Bromite in the Play Store. This one requires that you install this through F-Droid, which I'm going to be covering in the next episode when we talk about installing packages and that sort of thing. So Bromite is probably one of the best. Also, I like its desktop feature for offering hangouts and that sort of thing. All right, my favorite file manager, and I haven't been able to find one I like any better than this, and this is FX File Manager. I love the fact, since I like doing most things in portrait mode, I like that this is the only one that I could find that has dual pane browsing. It has dual pane browsing on in portrait mode. I like that, and this has several other features too. You can connect this to your computer and then transfer files back and forth to your computer. Let's go into the settings here, and it'd probably be better if I go into the home screen, but I don't have all of these icons on the home screen itself. All right, this also functions as an image viewer, and I like this a lot better than a number of the image viewers that are available online. Okay, this also has an excellent built-in media center as well. The only caveat is it doesn't play all the formats out there. So what I usually do is, rather than installing a bloated image viewer, what I'll do is I'll just use Miro Converter on my Linux desktop, and then just convert all of my videos and that sort of thing into MP4 format, and then this will play it just fine. So I do a lot of conversions there. This also has the ability for playing music as well. You can manage your applications with this that are installed. I don't use any of these in the network section here except for the web access. And basically what this does is it allows you to put in your mobile phone or your tablet's local IP address into your web browser, and then you can transfer files back and forth. And what makes this even better is I can transfer files from my tablet to my cell phone too, because this is installed on my cell phone as well, and even my mother's tablet has the same software installed. So now I can transfer files to all of the Android devices that have the software installed on my network, and transfer files back and forth that way. So it's really convenient, and I like this. All right. It has some cleaning tools in here. I really don't use them because SD-Made handles all of that for me. The file system browser allows you to look at all the different partitions that you have on your Android device. And if you have root access, you can get into them. You have a text editor, a system status tool, which is kind of neat. I just don't see the need to really use it. So, and then of course, this upgrade icon remains even if you purchase the premium version or not. It's still there. The only thing is you can remove it, and a help function. Okay, you can also tell it to hide or show different little file systems on this as well. Now you're going to notice, you're going to see one for the media card here that says I've got, and then there's a data partition here as well, and it's showing it as an extra drive. What that is I'm using a Magisk module, which I have basically taken my Android folder, and I have linked it to the SD card. So anytime I install a new application or game on my Android tablet, instead of using up a lot of my space locally, what it's doing is it's transferring the data to the SD card. OB files, like for games, they have the big OB files and that sort of thing, and those take up space. So I use a program called fbind, and what that does is it actually reports an extra drive, when in reality it doesn't. But it's not just this issue is not just indigenous to FX File Manager. I've seen this on other file managers as well, and I think it's just the binding software that I'm using, because as many of you know, you cannot do symlinks on a FAT32 formatted SD card. Okay, but fbind allows you to symlink and bind applications to folders on that media, and I needed it that way because I want to be able to take my SD card out and put it into my computer and transfer files sometimes, especially if I'm doing large file transfers. So I want to have that ability, and using the adopted storage feature will encrypt that data to where you can only access it on that particular Android device, and that's useless to me. I want to be able to take my chip out, put it somewhere else, and use it on another device. Okay, also the FX File Manager has lots of different settings and theming options that you can do with this. You can define trim colors, and they also have an additional icon pack. I thought the icons they have here are nice, but you can download the Faenza icons as well for this. Pretty much, out of all the file managers I've looked at in my time, Astro was another one of them. There were several that I've looked at, and FX File Manager sat with me the best, I think. All right, so yeah, good stuff indeed. So in this episode, my favorite apps for the desktop is Nova Launcher. My favorite weather app is WeWow. Minimal Clock for the clock interface, and the transparent widget. My favorite browser is a Bromite, available from the F-Droid market. And then I'm using FX File Manager, and that is free. But if you want the extended functions, you're going to have to ante up a little bit. So it's worth it to to support the developer and get the paid version of this. But even if you just use the free version itself, it's still really good. All right, and as stated, in my next episode, I'm going to cover all of my favorite file installer applications. Okay, and as an added bonus, I'm going to show you how to filter out applications with ads and in-app purchases on the Google Play Store. All of that is coming up next. You know, just a little bit of love goes a long way. So please be sure to take some of your time and be excellent with somebody today. Until next time, peace out.